So you have a friend that calls you up. She was beaten and badly injured by her husband. She has no money for an attorney, and she wants to get a divorce. She has no idea what to do next, and she's asking you for help. You have no idea what to do to help her out. You both feel helpless. Today I'd like to talk to you about utilizing a very important resource in our community, utilizing the court system. The court systems have plenty of resources to help out people with different legal issues. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the difference between some of the court buildings. As many of you know, here in Albuquerque we have actually 3 courthouses on the same corner. First one I'd like to talk about is our Metropolitan Courthouse, or Metro Court. Now here in Albuquerque we're fortunate to be able to have a Metro Court, which is actually designed to help a larger community as compared to some of the other communities in the area actually have a municipal court. Now the municipal court and the Metro Court basically have the same functions. So Metro Court actually handles misdemeanor cases, some civil lawsuits under $10,000, as well as several other smaller issues that may happen. And municipal court, like I had said before, actually does the same functions as a Metro Court. The next courthouse I'd like to talk about is District Court. Now the District Court is actually function is to handle most felony cases. They're able to handle civil, which is going to be your divorces and things of that nature, child custody, and that type thing. With the civil cases is actually going to be over $10,000 as well at the felony level. The next courthouse I'd like to talk about is actually the Appeals Court. An Appeals Court is just as it states. It handles the appeals from lower level courts that the attorneys believe were mishandled. And then the last courthouse I'd like to explain to you about is actually Supreme Court, which actually has jurisdiction over all the smaller courts with handling appeals and cases that may be passed up to it, as well as the attorneys that are licensed by the state. So they actually handle the complaints from those attorneys and actually have the ability to take away their law license. So what exactly are the options that are offered through these courts? Well, with Metro Court, like I had said before, it offers a couple of court-ordered programs, mainly with the DUI and DWI program, as well as they have a self-help desk and they offer weddings there. And the one I'd like to talk to you about the most is the District Court. District Court also has a self-help desk, which is staffed mainly by paralegals, and because they're not licensed attorneys, they're actually not able to give you any legal advice. But what they're there for is to actually help you accomplish what you need, whether you're being represented pro se, which is representing yourself instead of an attorney, to get you the paperwork you need and help you filling out the paperwork correctly. Some other resources they have is actually the Domestic Violence Department. And with the example I gave you earlier, domestic violence is an extremely important thing. The example I gave, the first thing you're going to want her to do is go to the Domestic Violence Department and get a restraining order. What happens there is the clerks will help you get that restraining order and fill out the paperwork, and you turn it back in. At that point, a commissioner is actually going to review all your paperwork and ensure that it's completed correctly and make sure you have all the elements that would require a restraining order. At that time, the commissioner will actually decide whether or not a temporary restraining order should be in place or not. If they issue a temporary restraining order, which is approximately for 10 days, you, as well as the other party you're filing against, will actually have to come back to the courthouse and explain both sides of your case to the commissioner. At that time, the commissioner will decide whether or not a permanent restraining order will be in place and explain everything that's involved with that. They also offer some more programs, such as the drug court and pretrial programs, which are similar to probation, as well as child support, the records departments, which will actually help you file cases and get paperwork that are needed. So you're not exactly familiar with the law and you don't have enough money for an attorney, so what exactly do you want to do at this point? Well, the first thing, especially if it's a criminal case, I suggest is to apply for a public defender, which is a state-appointed attorney that will help represent people mainly with criminal matters. And what they do is they are offered at a reduced rate as compared to most of the private attorneys. If you're not able to do that, another option for you to get an attorney is to actually go to a private attorney. Many of them offer free consultations, and then they try and work a financing plan with you to deal with whatever case that you have. And then again, I'd like to reiterate the whole domestic violence program, is that you can be represented pro se in these programs and actually accomplish all the needs that you need to help, for example, the example I had given to you earlier. District Court also has two different main departments. Now they have their civil department and their criminal department. And civil handles everything from child custody, child support, parenting plans, tort claims, and civil lawsuits. Like I said, those are going to be over $10,000. Those are commonly represented pro se, as I said before, either representing yourself, or they have civil attorneys that are actually able to represent. And at all times, I would suggest if you're going into any sort of court hearing, you're going to want to have an attorney represent you, because I've seen many cases where they've been dismissed just because the person purely doesn't have enough knowledge about how to prosecute their case. Now with criminal cases, they're commonly prosecuted by the district attorney's office and the ADAs that are employed with there, which are state prosecutors. And the public defenders, as well as private defense attorneys, will actually represent people there. And with that, as I mentioned before, the records departments can all help you get the records needed for these cases, papers to help file, and that type of thing in order to complete your cases. So after today's speech, I hope that if you're ever in a situation where somebody needs your help, legal advice or anything like that, you feel moved and motivated to help that person out. It's extremely important to help these people out, especially with restraining orders and domestic violence, because it's so common and you never know what it can lead to. Thank you. That works.
What was your time?